continues its existence.
Darbeden birkaç hafta önce
A few weeks
Menderes'e
before
gönderilen
the
muhtıra
coup,
mahiyetindeki mektupta ifade edilen
Menderes
görüşler
was sent a letter which was in the form of a warning,
1971
but it is the
muhtırasında
same style that was used in the coup in 1971 or at the 1980 coup or in the same letter in 1997 or in the declaration in 2007 and actually in the most recent declaration by retired generals. It's the same approach and it's the same center. Nothing has changed. It's not only coup plotters, but those who ignite them or encourage them, or the politicals who cooperate with them still continue their existence. In addition to that, we also have the monchers which work together. They work together and they're managed from the same center. They prefer to draw power from not the nation but from coup plotters, and they try to get power not from the elections but rather from weapons and from the gallows. This mentality did not want to take power legitimately, but rather try to rule the country through instruments of tutelage. They are, at every occasion that they were challenged, they tried to cause turmoil and unrest in the country in order to imply another coup. The Republican People's Party plus the military equals a coup. Those who designed this formula have always demonstrated recklessly this mentality. For instance, the coup plotters of 1960 announced many years later that they drew support from CHP administration, or they were encouraged by the publications that were published by the Republican People's Party. Now, let's talk about İsmet İnönü, who CHP calls the national chief. Let's see what he said at the Grand National Assembly of Turkey right before the coup on May 27th. He says, on my way here, outside, I saw a group of troops which had circled the building of the parliament. They were led by a young colonel. You are afraid of me, but you're also afraid of the commander who's commanding the troops right outside. In order to prove that you are afraid and you don't trust him, I have an offer to you. Please call in that commander, that major, and ask him to take me, to detain me, and let's see whether he will comply with your order. And I have an opposite suggestion as well. Let me call the major in and let me make him abolish the parliament. Would you want this? There will be a revolution and you won't survive it. Yes, this same discourse we have heard over the years from different administrators or leadership of CHP. As you would remember, during the memorandum of February 27, 28, the CHP leadership at the time took ownership of it even more than the army. In order to prevent AK Party from electing a president in the parliament, they worked very hard and they carried out many demonstrations and again, these were the same figures. When the FETÖ members made an attempt in 17th to 15th of December, they protected the materials and with made-up recordings, they took hostage the prestige of the parliament for many months.
İhanetlerden biri olan
One of the top
15
treacheries
Temmuz
of our
darbe
history was
girişimini
the coup attempt
kontrollü
on
darbe
July
diyerek,
15th, and they called this
tiyatro
a
diyerek
controlled
küçümseyen, bu
uh,
tehdide karşı alınan
coup attempt,
tedbirleri
and
sivil darbe diyerek
when we took
engellemeye
measures
çalışan
against such attempts,
yine
they
bunlar.
used to call it a civilian coup.
Halkların arasından kaçıp giden, Bakırköy'e sığınan
And
yine bunlar.
again, they're the people who ran
Daha
out
geçen yıl
from between the tanks and took
bir erken
shelter
seçimle veya başka
in a
bir
safe
şekilde
house.
iktidar
Again, through
değişikliğinden söz
early
eden
elections
yine
or
bunlar.
with any other method, they're again
Mecliste
talking about a
darbeyle
change of
buluşmaktan
power.
söz eden şiirler okuyanlar
They recite
yine bunlar.
poems about the coup in the
bizi
parliament.
indirmekten ve vatana
They
ihanetle
try,
yargılamaktan söz edenler
they also talk about
bunlar.
taking us down or trying us for
sosyal medya
treachery
hesaplarından
against the country.
darbeler,
From their
zaruretler
social
doğmadan
media
yapılmamıştır.
accounts, they
Maalesef
announce
bugün
that
böyle
coups
bir
always
zaruret
happened
vardır
out of
diyerek
necessities,
milli
and today
şeflerinin
there is a
izinden
similar
gittiklerini
necessity.
gösterenler
So they
yine bunlar.
declare that they are chasing
Birkaç hafta
still.
önce
They're walking in the footsteps of their national chief. A few weeks ago, they're the same ones who threatened us with the same fate of late Menderes, who was executed, or all other dark attempts by different circles have always been supported by the leadership of CHP. CHP representatives have always praised coups, but every time they were captured, they said this was a made-up agenda. But they do not know that when we set out on this journey, we took the risk of death. But they don't know that.
Çünkü biz şunu da biliyorduk.
Because we knew
Her
that
nefis ölümü tadıcıdır.
each person is destined to die ultimately,
Akıbetimiz bu.
and that is our
Kaçmak
end.
yok.
There is no way
Öyleyse
to avoid it,
biz ölümü korkutanlardan
which means
olacağız.
we should be one of those
Ve bu
who
yolda böyle
fear,
devam
who give fear to death, and that is how we should continue
Milletin değerlerine
on our
husumet,
path. As you can
demokrasiye
see,
ve milli iradeye
hatred
güvensizlik,
towards the values of the nation, or national will, or coup plotting, or working with the enemies of the country is in the genes of the leadership of Republican People's Party. And the antidote is strengthening of the national will. One of the biggest reforms of our history was the executive presidential system, with which we took an important step in this direction, but they were offended by this change. But hopefully with the new and civilian constitution we will make this step more lasting, and we will carry our country to the higher league in democracy. Both as the country and as AK Party, we continue our studies very carefully. Our partner in the People's Alliance, MHP and BBP, they are working together with us in this study. From the Nationalist Movement Party, the MHP, we have received from our partner their studies. They have presented to us their draft constitution, and other parties we know that are preparing for the same project as well. Our studies, our work is also complete, and we will be presenting this to them as well. And hopefully towards the end of this year we're going to bring together these texts and study them thoroughly and try to find ways to turn it into a comprehensive proposal. Our goal is that all political parties in the parliament will give constructive and effective and frank support to the efforts for a new constitution. If the new constitution can be ratified in the parliament with such a broad agreement, that would be great for our nation. But if we do not find the grounds for reconciliation as we wish, together with the parties that support us in the People's Alliance, we are dedicated to offer our draft to the assessment of our nation. Coup plotters and the political mentalities which support coups for their own aspirations. They do not shy away from burning down the country or from stopping the development of our country. Every time democracy gained power in our country and the national will prevailed in politics, Turkey then grew, developed, and our citizens have seen new services and new projects. But during times of coup and tutelage, this process was sabotaged. Our people grew poorer, services were ignored, investment stalled, and the country went backwards. When economy shrank or international organizations like IMF had tutelage over our economy, this was the years when the country was dominated by coup plotters. There were attempts of development and enthusiasm during the initial years of the Republic, but during the single-party era, factories were closed down or entrepreneurs were prevented in taking new steps. Turkey is going to be could be brought to a higher league thanks to, for instance, automobiles, aircraft production, the use of underground resources, engine production, or manufacturing or export-based steps. All of such efforts have been kept down by the CHP mentality and their twins, which are the coup plotters. The country was condemned to backwardness, or our nation was condemned to poverty. In the foundation years of the Democrat Party, CHP's main opposition was that this party was organizing in the rural and was telling the truth to our nation and was creating the awareness for the development of our country, and CHP wanted to prevent this. İnönü himself, before the elections in 1946, he said, I am İsmet who supports Kuvayi Milliye and coups. We will not abandon our country to a few scoundrels, and if we fail, we will continue in the old method. So he showed the stick of coups in advance. There was open voting and closed counting in the 1946 elections, and of course it is not difficult to guess the outcome of those elections. But in the first election that was done with closed voting and open counting, the Democrat Party, despite every oppression, was able to come to power, and they once again made the will of the nation the prevailing force in politics. After this election, Turkey for the first time saw a real climate of democracy and development. With the lifting of the pressure on the nation, a climate of freedom was initiated, which continued with infrastructure investment that continued in different parts of the country. The CHP mentality and the coup plotters are two sides of the same coin, and they were disturbed by this leap of development. And when you look at the excuses used for coups, they were paving the way for unrest, or it was based on discourse that contained hatred against the values of our country. The legitimate governments and the institution of politics and all national and local elements of our country were attacked with the same perverted mentality. AK Party, just like the Democrat Party, has been brought to power with great expectations from our nation, and right away it took over the cause for democracy and development. And today you can see where we have come. Today we are on the island of democracy and freedoms.
CHP zihniyeti işte buradan İmralı'ya
The CHP mentality had prepared notes for execution both here and on the İmralı Island. But today on this island we are making a call for democracy and freedoms. This is the difference that we have with them, and the supporters of the CHP mentality, they have nothing to do with freedoms or nothing to do with democracy. They have nothing to do with a Turkey where freedom prevails. They are the ones who fear freedoms. In the past 19 years, both in democracy and in freedoms and in development, we have brought more development in our country than the sum of the rest of our history. And of course, PARTİ was the target of all of this enmity, naturally. Since the beginning, the CHP leadership have been enemies to us, and when you look at their activities, you never see politics of service and construction. With their documents, information, and they are the mentality which keep raising the lies and slander which are proven with documents to be wrong, and they call this conducting politics. In the past, people were assigned to public positions, or tenders were handed by only connections within the government. Recently, they have increased their speed when it comes to lies and slander. They talk about the tank factory to the Man Island, or from $128 billion to the recent claims in the past few days. They continue the strategy of repeating lies over and over. Turkey has many local and national projects, and all of those projects have been targeted. The CHP leadership and their entourage have an opposition strategy which can be summed as follows. We know that they are lying. They know themselves that they are lying. They also know that we know that they are lying, and we know that they know that we know that they're lying. But they continue lying. So, what did I just do? I just described what CHP does. Because when it comes to politics, they have nothing else that they can offer. Because when it comes to building and serving, they are not in a position to compete against us, because they have no projects, no studies, or no preparations to do so. Because their politics is the politics of lies and slander. It's the easiest thing to do in politics. Every evening, they sit down with a number of party members and agency members, and they devise some lies, and they announce them the next day in the parliament. For instance, in Gara, we had an incident where we lost 13 of our citizens, and right after, our ministers of Interior and National Defense went to the leader of CHP and detailed the situation, explained the situation in all details. But only minutes after this meeting, the CHP leader went to the podium in his parliamentary group, and he repeated the lies that they had come up with the previous night, just like he wasn't informed about everything. This is what they do, because that is what they are programmed to do. There is no place in their minds for the truth, because this is the mission that they have been given. And is this not how he deceived his own chairman? He said he would not be a candidate, but the next morning he nominated himself. And during their handover with Mr. Baykal, that is how it happened. The leadership was handed over. We have to know them quite well, and we should not fall for their traps. In order to do all of these, he was taken to the seat of the chairmanship of CHP in order to conduct these plans. This is managed from outside, from a center. He was brought there in order to carry out these plans with a very shameful conspiracy, in order to keep with certain dark partners. They are suffering in certain dark partnerships, and they are already making bargains with the terror group in order to give them different ministries. On the TV, for instance, you see a naval officer from the army, from the navy of this nation, a commander who served in the navy of this nation. He is, as you can see, talking on TV about how the PKK-related people will be given ministries. And could there be any worse embarrassment, any worse contempt than this? You have been a naval officer in the navy of this country, but afterwards you will say on TV that it's normal to make these people ministers because they're already members of the parliament, so they can be made ministers in the new government. But this is an issue of character. If you have a problem in your character, or if you have a problem in your ethics, I cannot say anything to him as a member of the Turkish nation. The only thing that they know about is, just like they did since 1950, to prevent the attempts of development of this country, and if they fail to do so, they at least try to cast a shadow. But as the ancestors used to say, you cannot achieve good work with faulty instruments. Which means by lying and by slandering in politics, you cannot really serve, or you cannot really build. The love for democracy and development should take root in your heart. Otherwise, no matter how much hypocrisy you carry out, you will not convince the nation to accept you, Mr. Kemal and his supporters. For that reason, CHP is losing every election that he enters. All of his votes are from a small 20-25% segment, which are backing him for ideological reasons. CHP knows quite well that the nation does not trust it. For that reason, he is working with HDP and the PARTİ, and then taking a very small breakout from the AK Party and trying to hide himself. But they are not aware that even if their heads are buried in the sand, their body is still outside like an ostrich. With their incompetency and lack of ethics and lack of embarrassment, they continue working with terror groups and crime groups, and they continue complaining about their country to foreigners. And what CHP does is quite obvious. In every elections that they have entered, our nation has given the right response to CHP. Our nation, which are watching us in front of their screens, hopefully will once again display the same will and give the response to CHP. I have full confidence in my nation. I know that our nation has the right approach in the face of facts.
Değerli arkadaşlar, aziz milletim,
My dear nation
Parti olarak
and colleagues, as the AK Party, what we are supposed to do is to draw power from 19 years of experience and to continue working for new achievements.
geçtiğimiz grup toplantısında da ifade ettim.
As I have expressed in the recent group meeting, as AK Party, in the past we were fighting against tutelage and against social and political engineers, as we did not give them any room for movement. And in the international arena, the way we held our heads high, and as we brought new works and new services to every one of our 81 provinces, and as we crushed the heads of all terror groups, we will do the same as we protected democracy and freedoms and developed it, and as we protected the rights and future of each member of our nation. Hopefully, tomorrow we will continue working under the service of our nation, and we will continue delivering new achievements.
Kongrelerimizi tamamlamış, teşkilatlarımızı yeni bir heyecan.
We have completed our congresses and we have reshaped our organization with new excitement for 2023, and we should use every moment and every day in the most productive way possible. And hopefully, in the economy, we are expecting a serious recovery starting this year. In recent years, in oil and gas exploration, we have caught new momentum, as I'd like to share with my nation. In the Black Sea, we have discovered natural gas at 400 billion cubic meters, and in land areas we continued our exploration activities, and we have started getting new results. In certain wells and pits, we have been able to manufacture new oil. In the past 1 month only, we have discovered oil in 3 new pits, and in Akoba 1 and Yenişehir 1 wells in Diyarbakır and the Misinli 2 well in Kırklareli, our daily production has been increased by 6,800 barrels. The daily production average of Turkish oil in 2021 has reached 61,000 barrels per day, with the inclusion of the last 3 pits. In order to offer natural gas to our citizens, we continue expanding our grid. In 2002, our 5 metropolitan areas were able to enjoy natural gas, but today gas has been brought to all 81 provinces for the use of our nation. The natural gas transmission and distribution network has been increased with an investment of more than 46 billion liras to a total of 170,000 kilometers. Likewise, the number of natural gas users has reached 17 million users, and a population of 55 million actively use natural gas. There are citizens who have natural gas reaching their provinces but haven't started using this comfort yet, 13 million citizens, and I call out to all of our citizens to use that convenience which has come all the way to their front doors. We are preparing for other good news in other areas in addition to oil and gas. Many leaps and many projects that we have been preparing for many years will be realized one by one until 2023 and be offered to the use of our nation. In all of our provincial organizations, starting from today to June 2023, please plan day by day and please come up with activities that can tap the hearts of our nation. And to the extent that the pandemic limitations allow, we will be trying to visit provinces in order to observe your activities in the field and to participate in them. The best response that we can give to attacks which target our party and our nation would be to embrace our nation more closely and to bring more services to our nation. And may God help us on this journey. And on this occasion, once again, I commemorate Adnan Menderes and his colleagues. I commemorate everyone who contributed to our nation's cause of democracy and development. For Turkey's peace and security and for the continuation of our state, I would like to commemorate our martyrs who sacrificed their lives with God's blessings. And of course, in the meantime, hopefully we are taking certain steps. Tomorrow we will be inaugurating the mosque in Taksim, hopefully following the Friday prayers. For many years since my childhood, we were told that we would fail, we wouldn't be able to build the mosque there, and we were given a small mosque which was almost like a garbage collection area where Muslims had to perform their Friday prayers. But God gave us the opportunity, thankfully. Thankfully, Suryapı, a very charitable organization, a charitable company, have built the mosque themselves, and it is now complete. And hopefully the following week we're going to be in Zonguldak, which is right next to the Black Sea, and there we have built the Uzun Mehmet Mosque, which was built in a great architecture, which is right next to the Black Sea, and hopefully the inauguration will take place the following week after the Friday prayers. Because we are supposed to do what suits us the best, and I believe that all of our brothers and sisters in these places will be very happy and they're satisfied with the steps that they have been taken, and the feedback that we receive point to this. For instance, the Uzun Mehmet Mosque. The new generation would find out about the figure of Uzun Mehmet thanks to this mosque. Most young people don't know, but now they will be able to learn. And with these steps taken in the Black Sea, a logistics center will hopefully be inaugurated. And then with the Kanuni drilling ship, we will make connections, and together with all these steps, hopefully, we will continue our politics of building. I greet all of you and see you later.
AK Parti Genel Başkanı, Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan teşekkürlerimi sunuyor ve zat devletlerini divana davet ediyorum. Değerli konuklar, Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımıza refakat etmek üzere AK Parti Genel Başkan Vekilimiz